Go, go. Hey everybody, how you doing? I am Dr. Alicia with Coaching with Dr. Alicia, and today we are going to talk about voting. Why do we vote against ourselves? And to join me in this discussion, I have my esteemed colleagues here. I have Dr. Cris and Dr. Buster. Those are my two favorite PhDs in the world. Aside from my husband, by the way. Aside from my husband. But we got a fascinating topic. I have just been so curious about voting behavior, this political landscape, and the relationship between political figures and just watching the whole thing unfold. As a therapist, I'm thinking to myself, what is going on? What are the behaviors and the thought process of people who are voting? I'm sitting and I'm looking at all of the dynamics on my way into this video. I dropped my daughter off from school to, not school, but to dance. I'm listening to NPR. There's already fighting going on between our elect president and his so-called cabinet. He's firing people and bringing people in, and it's all this chaos and dynamic that's already starting. And we haven't even hit inauguration. January 20th, Martin Luther King Day is inauguration day. We do have a new president. There's already drama happening, and we haven't even had this thing get started. So I'm sitting here trying to find out the psychology behind this. What does this mean for America? What is it going to mean for us as Black folks? And what can we look at? And I'm sitting here scratching my head, but I don't need to scratch my head any further. I do have Dr. Buster here. Y'all check him out on Facebook. Buster Ogbuagu. Go to his Facebook page, follow him on Facebook, because every day, every second of the day, he's posting all of his thoughts about politics, because he is a professor and he teaches policy at my university, or his university, our university. He teaches policy. So he is very well knowledgeable on what's happening here. And then I got my real good bestie over here, Dr. Cris, and she's got 2 PhDs. She has a PhD in psychology, clinical psychology, and she has a PhD in industrial organizational psychology. So she knows about what's happening, the dynamics of big picture things that's happening. And so I contacted them immediately and I said, what is going on? Why do we vote against ourselves? So I don't want to keep y'all going, but hey, wait, how you doing in the chat? I'm looking at everybody in the chat. Why don't y'all answer the question? I'm going to ask my panelists, why do we vote against ourselves? But I want to know everybody here in the chat. Hey, Big Wise, how you doing? Hey, Ray Coleman. Bad choices to vote either way. See, this is interesting. We're becoming apathetic about the voting process. Dennis, much love for you, Dennis. Hey, Miss China Doll, how you doing? These are some regular people in here. And wait, I just saw someone put the Pookie 25 wrote in here, for years you had told your followers not to vote. I never said not to vote. I don't know who that is. Who said that? But yes, Ace, Black Ace is here. Black Ace is saying the title, why we vote against ourselves, Kamala or Trump, don't misrepresent me, especially Kamala Imhoff Harris. I don't know what that means, but anyway. Oh, Pookie said my husband said not to vote. He did not say don't vote. Actually, let me tell you something. Dr. Boyce, me and him went together up the street and we voted together for me and him. And he's not up on politics like I am. So I filled out a ballot for him and gave it to him and said, these are the people you vote for. I had done the research, and we have some friends who are voting in local elections. And I had some friends, 2 of my really good, not good friends, but that I know pretty well. They were running for judge. And so we had some friends that were running. And so I had to make sure he got the right person on the ballot. So I don't know if he said don't vote, but it was before he met me. Okay, well, now that he's met me, he's now in the political process and we are now voting. But anyway, if you guys want to know when I go live, I think he's back there sending a text message out. But if you want to know when I go live, wait, let me pull this up. Lord, there's so many different pages to pull up. I got to get it right. I don't want to get in trouble. Text the word love, LOVE, LOVE to 87948, and then you'll get messages on when we go live. Okay, so I'm bringing Dr. Buster back. So maybe I'll start with him. You guys, we did a show earlier, Dr. Buster and I. You'll find it if you search in the if you pan in the YouTubes, you'll be able to find a conversation that I had with Dr. Ogbuagu about the political process. And I still have more questions. It was just the tip of the iceberg. And I'm glad to bring him back because I've been talking about this paradox. The first time we talked about the paradox of the intolerance. When we tolerate intolerance, what ends up happening is that intolerance prevails. And so I want to bring him back because I want to dig more into this this paradox. And the recent paradox that we'll talk about today is, why do we vote against ourselves? Dr. Buster, you go first. What's going on with voters and why we vote against ourselves?
Thank you, Dr. Alicia. I'm going to start with the Black community, and especially the issue of the Black community as it concerns gender across the board, male and female. The historical antecedents of slavery forced Black men out of their homes, and from there they were sold. Therefore, Black women have been holding half the sky for centuries. And they showed that in all elections, beginning with Clinton and the rest of them, and if Black women did not vote and drive the votes, many of these people would not have become what they are. They did that for Obama. They also did that for Biden. So what happened? If you remember Biden's primary, he was nearly out until South Carolina women made him the nominee. And the question we ask is, where were the men? The men were there because of the subservience of slavery, which has allowed, if you look at the divorce rate and the rate of families of Black people, you'll find that women are holding half the sky. And it's not because the men are bad. No, the problem is that this has been internalized for 400 years of slavery. And Black women found a way to survive. Look at all the kids. Most of the kids we have, the fathers are not there. They were not taught to be there. And this is not because they are bad fathers. It's because that's the way white supremacy has constructed their experience. So because Black women were holding the sky for all this time, Black men felt left out. And what happened was also that they felt that their masculinities had been challenged and to a very large extent emasculated. And Donald Trump represented the rejuvenation of the masculinities they lost. They believe that in Black women holding half the sky, that they didn't have a voice. So Trump represented what they had lost. And they decided that they were going to regain it by making their voices heard. And that's one of the many reasons why Black males predominantly voted for Trump. It wasn't because of eggs and milk. I'm sure they know very well that Donald Trump is a crook and he's a con man. He has no capacity to do anything because he doesn't control the global economy. And he can't call the shots on global economy because we are living in a global economy where what happens in China impacts upon how we live here. In the case of Latinos, it's about machismo, which is ingrained in their socialization process. So to this extent, even Latinos themselves voted against their own interest. So it's like a form of reclamation of what they believe was their lost penises, if I can put it that way. They were trying, that had been excised. They are trying for a way to suture it back into place. And Trump gave them the voice that they were looking for to tell Black women and Black Latinas, that we are still here. Unfortunately, Trump does not care. Trump is an equal opportunity victimizer. So it doesn't matter where you're coming from, so long as you are the means to his end, he is going to run you roughshod. Milk is not going to come down. Sugar is not going to come down. He's threatening tariff. Canada, it's the largest trading partner for US. Most of US oil comes from the sands of the oil sands in Alberta. Timber comes from here. There are many things that come from here, and Canadians do not talk much. If Trump slaps a 25% tariff on them, Canada is going to retaliate. So essentially speaking, Black men and Latino men were looking for their voice, which they felt that were subdued. Remember that for all these 400 years, Black women have held their own.
Yes.
Look at all the people we know. You can see who raised them. They were Black women. They walked from the West Indies, where immigration was led by women as domestic servants, to the Philippines. You find that it's all women. So to that extent, Black men who had the same fragilities as whites believed that Trump was going to bring back their voice, which had been attenuated by the successes of women. Go to universities, look at the enrollment for women. Juxtapose that with the enrollment for men. Therefore, Black men and other people, all men are receiving less education than women. Yes. And women have become strong voices. So Black people were like, what? A Black woman is going to be president? And he's going to take away my machismo. So they preferred that it was a Black male who victimized, a white male that victimized them, because that's what they have been used to for 400 years. Domestic violence occurs in Black families because when we Black men go out there, the people who hire us, who supervise us, are white, and they have power. We don't talk back. We bring it back home. What I have told all my students is, when my supervisor insults me in the office, I will insult him right back, because I'm not going to take it back to my wife as an internalized misaggression. But most of what we have done as Black people is that we have internalized white rage and white hate, and then we bring it back home. So anybody that represents what diminishes our masculinities, we go crazy.
Woo! Oh my goodness. Men who voted against their best interest were looking for their voice. It is down to the psychology of believing that you do not have a voice, and you vote against yourself because you prefer a white male victimizer that's more familiar to you than to put a Black woman in the office.
Yeah, because you can say, hey, he was a man after all. But if a woman beats you, you're like, you mean a woman beat me?
It's your manhood.
Yeah.
Okay, Dr. Cris, it's your turn. Answer the question. I'm taking notes here. What's going on? Tell me, what do you think? Why are we voting against ourselves, the individuals who voted for Donald Trump? Yes, I do. I think Kamala Harris is a good choice. Look, we have this question. Do you think Kamala Harris is a good choice over someone who has been a convicted criminal? But let's see, Dr. Cris, take this on. What say you?
Well, I love what Dr. Buster was saying, and definitely agree that one of the things that happened, one of the primary things that happened, I think, in this last election was the ability for this incoming president to reach out and give voice to people like Dr. Buster was saying, the people who felt like they didn't have a voice anymore, that were feeling more powerless. And the thing is that the style, the psychological makeup of Trump it includes that strongman, right? Aggression is very much on the forefront of his style. And, you know, when we think back to, was it Mulligan studies, aggression is very easy, very much an easy way for us as humans to emote. It's more comfortable, I think, than some of the other ones. Now, going from there, what was difficult for me, or what had been really racking my mind about, is what I don't understand is that block that we would receive. So what it seems like is once we have some groups in America that were followers of this incoming president, there became, I think, a very strong psychological commitment. And that psychological commitment to the ideology, to the propaganda, to the scapegoat of immigrants being the problem, that commitment is when that veil goes up. They're no longer open-minded. They're no longer interested in hearing anything against what they believe in. And mind you, for some people, their values and beliefs may have changed, but regardless, that's where their defense mechanisms come in. Okay, so what was difficult, I think, and different, particularly in these particular last 3 campaigns, well, since 2016, is the amount of times that the attempts to have a discussion, an open, collaborative, or even brainstorming type of discussion with people who disagree has just gone to the wayside. And I think part of that is also fueled by that candidate's or the incoming president's campaign is very much an us versus them. It's me or you. And guess what? Human survival instincts, I'm gonna take care of me first, which, you know, it happens. But I think once they get that psychological commitment, I think what probably is probably most likely occurred for a lot of followers is they maybe had people in their social circle or family members asking them about, well, can you explain this? Because here's the other thing. It's not necessarily a problem, I don't think, to be psychologically committed to an ideology, but not to an ideology that is not based on fact. Not an ideology or a leader who purposely confuses and purposely perpetuates lies. And he uses that same technique, the big lie technique from the Nazis and another leader, right? You know, so people take it in that once they become psychologically committed, they're no longer in that space mentally, cognitively, or emotionally where they're open to hearing other ideas. So guess what? Now they're doing things such as denying. So for example, if you present them with information, oh, that's not true. Or if you can get to the point of having a discussion and saying, but this is true, they minimize the importance of it. So that's where your those defense mechanisms come in. And if anybody out there understands what it's like to go against someone's defense mechanism, it's like an invisible boxing match, right? Mm-hmm. And I think when you're dealing with an opponent or another person you're talking to who has put up that veil and doesn't want to hear anymore, you're kind of at an impasse, you're kind of at a stop.
Yeah, I like this whole thing with this psychological commitment because it's like a lock and key relationship. It's just like it locks in. And I think what makes people rationalize, you're talking about these defenses that people have where you can vote for somebody who really doesn't have your best interest because in your mind, you are you feel so much stress. Like when he talks about, although now he's saying he has no control over milk and eggs. But when he was campaigning on milk and eggs, when he was campaigning on these scary migrant workers are going to come attack your family and your daughters, hide your wives, these so-called migrant people were going to attack you, which wasn't accurate at all. What they were doing is he was capitalizing on the very real stresses of individuals, giving empty promises. And when you're in a position of power, and you mentioned too, he has this strong man, aggressive appearance, and he's putting himself in power, and he can capitalize on the pathology and the woundedness of individuals that's been happening for quite some time. And so that's why these people have lock and key cult-like following. It is really unbelievable and psychological. Thank you two, for answering these very interesting
and Dr. Alicia, it gets better. Trump gives them permission to remain in their dysfunctional state.
Yes.
Because if you go to the Black community, if you go to the Latino community, they are all cheats. They are not present in their family, as Trump never saw diaper of his kid. While Melania, one of the wife had a baby, he was out with Melania. So Trump normalizes their dysfunctional state. And they're saying Trump is all this and he's still successful. So I can remain who I am in my dysfunctional state and still succeed if I follow this man.
Woo! It's like, thank you for letting me be my evil self.
but Trump has intergenerational wealth. And he has a followership, including my brothers, who contribute their fiscal poverty into him to enrich him. So they can't be like Trump. So Trump gives them permission to remain comfortable in their dysfunctionality. If you go to Atlanta, the rate of Black males who have contracted HIV, who are bisexual, is high. They are in apparently committed family marriage relationship, but they are outside, which is the same thing that Trump does. Therefore, Trump has given them the permission to normalize their dysfunctional state and mainstream it.
Woo, that is beautiful. Hey, everybody, for just joining us. Today, we are talking about why we vote against ourselves. It's the psychology of politics. This is part 2. I have Dr. Buster on part 1, when we talked about these paradoxes. And this is sort of the cognitive dissonance that we are having conversations about so that we can understand the psychology. This is mental health. Did you hear Dr. Cris talk about how you have these rationalizations and these defenses that come up for you? It causes internal strife because psychologically that someone who has committed crimes, who has said some of the things that they've said about women, about individuals who are in poverty, have absolutely no empathy for anybody. And you know that empathy is for you, but you vote against that. That's a cognitive distortion, dissonance that's happening inside your body. It's a cognitive distortion to get to the dissonance. And so we're having conversations here because I think it has something to do with mental health. You've heard Dr. Buster talk about poverty, people who are less than, who are struggling with the milk and eggs and all of these things. And I want to share for you this page on Instagram. Hey, Rhonda, how you doing? Rhonda, I love Rhonda. Anyway, hi, Rhonda, how you doing? Rhonda, go to Eric Benet's page. I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully I can do this. I'm just learning how to do this. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. There's a page on Instagram.
This grain of rice represents $200,000. That's about the median net worth of a citizen in the United States, which means if you took our population and drew a line split down the middle, about half of us have this much or less. Half of us have this much or less. Just going to put that down right there. 1 grain of rice. This is $1 million 5 grains of rice. When most of us think rich, we think of $1 million. This is $100 million. This is about the net worth of CEOs who delay and deny care for sick Americans. This is also about the net worth of CEOs who tell Americans to eat cereal if they can't afford food for their hungry kids. This is $277 million. This is Elon Musk's personal investment in the 2024 elections. This is what he spent to buy the presidency. This is $1 billion. This is the approximate net worth of Vivek Ramaswamy. Only 800 people in the United States have this much money or more. As a frame of reference, think about how many people you went to high school with. Only 800. And this is $6.3 billion. This is the approximate net worth of Donald Trump. He recently said in an interview that he doesn't think he can bring grocery prices down after running his campaign on a promise to do so. He also blames immigrants who have less than a fraction of a grain of rice each for a lot of the financial troubles facing our country. And this is Elon Musk. He's worth $400 billion. He spent $277 million on the 2024 election cycle, while we have homeless veterans on our streets and hungry kids in our schools. This is what actual wealth disparity looks like in America. Each grain of rice is worth $200,000. And Elon Musk also wants to fire 75% of our federal workforce, which includes a majority of veterans. He wants to fire 75% of these people who have a single grain of rice trying to earn a living and feed their families because he says that that's inefficient. Musk, Ramaswamy, and certain members of Congress also want to consider cutting social welfare programs to support people with less than a single grain of rice from going into poverty. They want to look at cutting these programs because they believe that that's inefficient. Now that we finished the civics lesson, let's talk biology. Did you know that all human beings, no matter how much money they have, are all mortal? We're all made of flesh and bone. We all have to eat, and we all have to sleep. Each of us has only one life, and I encourage you to do something notable with yours. The American dream has been stolen from you. What happens to a dream deferred? Who's hungry?
Okay, he summed it up, and I just love this because I think that we need to get more crafty in how we deliver our message to the public. I feel like it's now in our hands to deliver what's facts. There is a such thing as a fact, and we need to get more savvy. And I think that this video was a beautiful illustration so that we can visually see the inequality that is among us, and that a lot of us need to be smacked in the face with the reality here, because how do you now deal with this? There are things called facts. How do you have a deeper understanding of the dynamics that contribute and make more effective communication and engagement in political discourse? We'll start with you, Cris. What is it? How do we help people with this? These facts about ourselves and what's really happening in the world and our daily lives. Tell us what we can do.
Well, there's no easy answer, I think, for sure. This is a complex situation. And I think, like Dr. Buster was saying, this is, 400 plus years in the making. Can't turn it around. We're not going to be able to turn around in a day. And where we're at today didn't just happen in the last year. This has been ongoing. So number one, going back to your question, I think you're absolutely right. We cannot cower at this point. We can't give up on facts. We need to continue to find ways, like you said, to creatively present facts that are digestible, palatable. I think we need to find ways to get around the fear mongering that has been occurring, because I think a lot of these followers have a lot of anxiety with their cognitive dissonance. And guess what? When you're faced with more fear, your anxiety is going to go up. And all of that, is also going to increase the other person's defenses if they don't agree with the facts. So the other thing is we got to figure out a way how to gently, and I think psychologists do this all the time, right? We got to find a way to gently get around that invisible boxing, those defense mechanisms. And one of the ways we can do that, or that we as psychologists do that, is to make sure that other persons or people that we're talking to know that we're a safe place. Okay. And trying, just at this point, I think it's just breaking through that invisible wall, and as much as it might feel counter to some of us as individuals, still reaching out and making that connection, and not just cutting them off necessarily.
Yeah, we do need to be kind of gentle with people. And I'm going to have Dr. Buster go next. But here's the thing. I know that, psychiatrists and psychologists and mental health professionals have gotten together and have written, I don't know how many books, 27 or more psychiatrists, people in this field have gotten together and said, listen, we're going to ignore the Goldwater rule. Y'all know about the Goldwater rule? Y'all know. Hey, everybody in the chat, you know about the Goldwater rule. Goldwater rule. That is, mental health professionals cannot diagnose somebody that they haven't physically examined. It's unethical. And however, they got a bunch of mental health professionals did get together and said, yeah, we understand the Goldwater rule, but you know what? We also have a moral and civic responsibility for a duty to warn. America supersedes professional neutrality, that as therapists, we can't be neutral anymore. We have to explore, because we think, I guess I can include myself in we think we have a duty to warn, because we can do what's called purpose of sampling. Y'all familiar? This is statistics. Purpose of sampling is when you get together other people to look at the behaviors, and it's a panel of individuals who can come to a conclusion based on visual behaviors and say, we have a duty to warn because we believe this current president is unfit to run this country, mentally unfit. I have a feeling that probably was going to happen to Biden, because he was definitely showing some cognitive decline. But also you have Donald Trump, who people have said he is unfit, that he has pathological and malignant narcissism, and he does not care. It is a lethal mix to have somebody with these characteristics and traits to be in charge. And we as psychiatrists and therapists and social workers need to speak up, because it's madness. We have to save America people, or at least talk about what we see, the trauma that people could have experienced under the Trump administration, to the cult-like characteristics of his followers. It's unprecedented. The mental health consequences for our nation and beyond. Let me stop. Hey, everybody. I want Dr. Buster to take this up, because I know he's got something to say about this.
Thank you. You're talking about how can we get back on track. Yeah, when you have a high fever, it breaks. Trump is going to assume office in the hallowed grounds where he doesn't belong in 2024. Milk is not going to go down. Dogs are not going to be eaten. Eggs are not going to come down. If they do come down, it's because of the programs that were established before him, which takes time. It's like a data. Most data we have today are from 2010 and 11, because it takes time for the data to be accumulated and used. So Black men and men in generally speaking, nobody is coming after you. Women are not trying to humiliate you. Women are trying to work with you. They are not emasculating you because they are going to school, because they are becoming CEOs, because they are becoming doctors and nurses and psychologists, and you have refused to better your life. It's not their responsibility to grow you. You have your own responsibility to grow yourself, because there is no white savior for you. You have to be your own black savior through how you treat your children, how you treat your spouses, how you love yourself. You can't love somebody else when you don't love yourself, because it doesn't work. And I have news for you. Women are going to grow, and they're going to grow exponentially, and they're going to be in charge of a lot of things. And you think that by dismissing Kamala Harris, you've dismissed women. I have news for you. There are more women who look like Kamala Harris than you will ever think of, and they are coming. So all you can do now is better yourself. The fever will break in 2025, and then perhaps you'll come out of your trances. Somebody had asked me the question, was Kamala Harris better? The only good politician is a dead one. However, if you juxtapose Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, it's like night and day. Kamala Harris is not a DEI. Kamala Harris is an accomplished woman, never mind race. She was an attorney general of the biggest state in the United States. Canada is about 40 million, about the same size as California, and Kamala Harris was its attorney general. Kamala Harris was also elected a senator and served. Kamala Harris became a vice president. So she is not a DEI, she's an accomplished woman, and there are many millions of Kamala Harris who are coming. And remember that this is the only country you have. Many of us are are transnational. I'm Nigerian, I'm Canadian, I'm an American. If I choose to go live in Australia today, they will give me my papers. I was a colonial subject under the British Empire. If I choose to go live in England, I will get my papers in short order. But most of you do not have another country you call your own. To mortgage it to people who have not your interest. I tell my students, I did 3 degrees here. I did 2 in Nigeria. It cost me $28,000 to do a bachelor's, a master's, and a PhD in Canada. When I was a cleaner in 1993, I was paid $13 an hour. 1993, today you are fighting, the minimum wage is still $7.25. So whereas yours has remained stagnant, those of the CEOs are like 500,000 times more than your own. And what makes you think that somebody sat his S80 for him, who has never worked a day in his life, who has 6 bankruptcies, is going to make your life better? I have news for you. Your life is not going to get better. The only person who can make your life better is you. So you need to return to your families. You need to be there for your children, for your daughters, because your daughters are not going anywhere. If there's anybody who is going to be dismissed, it's you, because who says that the only thing that makes a family is a penis? That masculinities don't make families. Those who are dedicated to their families make families. And the family system and how we construct it has already changed, and you need to change with it. If you have a wife or a spouse who is not educated, who doesn't want to better themselves because you want to control them, you are not going to grow. So you sit down, think really, really hard, and let's wait for 2025 to come, and the fever will break. And if you do come back to your senses, we will be here. If you don't come back to your senses, you will be left in the ash heap of history. Just like the man who you worship, who is your cult leader, is still going, he can be president 3 times. He can change the constitution, which he can't. But he's going to go into the sordid sections of history that in about 5, 10, 15 years, your children, your grandchildren will come and say, there was a time in the history that was the Dark Ages.
Yes.
And his name and your name will be there.
Woo, my goodness. The fever will break. So Dr. Buster, y'all, is saying the fever's going to break. The romance stage is going to be over.
Yeah, in the 70s and 80s, there was Pol Pot in Cambodia who dismissed technology. 2 million Cambodians were massacred in the killing fields. Eventually, the fever broke, and Pol Pot was exposed as the common criminal that he was. And they came and arrested him like the hoodlum he was. This was the same thing that happened in Cambodia, where intellectuals were threatened and killed because they actually had to think. But eventually, Pol Pot of Khmer Rouge, his fever eventually broke in Cambodia.
See, and I think that's why what I love about you, Dr. Buster, is that Dr. Buster is also a historian. So he's bringing history into this. History is repeating itself because a lot of us don't know what happened in Cambodia. Y'all look it up. Look up what happened in Cambodia. The fever broke in Cambodia. And it's scholars and historians are pulling their hair out going, wait, these are the exact same things that happened before. Can we not learn from history?
And fever broke in Nazi Germany, the Third Reich.
Yes.
The fever broke. The fever broke with Anastasia Somoza Debayle of Nicaragua. The fever broke with El Duce Mussolini of Italy, and they hung him. They dragged him out. How about Nicolae Ceausescu? His fever broke of Romania. They brought him and his wife in the yard like a common criminal, and they slaughtered him. These are fevers that are breaking every day, and the fever you have now is going to break. And one day you're going to have an epiphany where you're going to say, "Oh my God, I was such an idiot. How did I get here?" And there's one thing I can assure you: we love you unconditionally. We will provide services, even if it is pro bono. For those of us who are counselors, your wives, your children, your daughters, for whom you mortgage their uterus, their well-being for a common criminal, will forgive you because your dad, your brother, your sibling.
Yes.
But your fever is not going to last long.
I think it's so beautiful, Dr. Buster, you've made these predictions. I made a prediction, and maybe I can go to Dr. Cris about this. I made a prediction that Donald Trump is such a narcissist that there's no way he's going to be getting along with people. And I predict that he's not going to get along with people in his cabinet, just like what happened before, you know?
He hasn't gotten along with himself.
He hasn't gotten along with himself. He's so insecure. And I made a prediction that he and Elon Musk, I don't think this love affair is going to last very long.
Elon Musk comes from a dysfunctional family.
Yes.
He doesn't talk with his father. His father engaged in incest with his stepdaughter and had a baby with him in 2017, another one in 2019 and 2021. And Elon Musk is here. How many people has Elon Musk had? How many children does he have? Elon Musk is grieving one of his children who is a transgender.
Yes.
That's why he named his Twitter X unknown. So Elon Musk is grieving and he's trying to fight what his child is.
Yes.
And we become the canon fodder for him. And that's why he named Twitter X unknown, because he is grieving the loss of the child. And he can afford to pump over $200 million to buy the presidency so he can change time. You can't change time. Time is going to change you.
Yes, $277 million.
Yes.
Just for a friend. He had to purchase a friend.
Yes. And Elon Musk did not stay in America as a legal resident.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, his father is an incestuous idiot. The stepdaughter that he impregnated was 4 years old when he married the mother.
Wow.
And raised this child, and then so you can show me, and what of this picture is of Elon Musk is different from Donald Trump's. If Donald Trump had a way, he would have sex with the daughter, and he's fantasized those.
Okay, let's go on, Dr. Cris. What's your prediction here? Give a prediction, because I gave my prediction. Dr. Buster gave his prediction. Tell us, based on we don't know for sure, right? But we're intelligent. We can read the tea leaves, right? Tell us, what's your prediction? What do you have to say about this, Dr. Cris?
Well, I will say, I have a little more hope talking today with you guys. So thank you very much for having me. I think unless or until the fever breaks, as you and Dr. Buster were talking about, I think we're in a very critical time period where we may lose our democracy. And I'm not trying to fearmonger. I'm not trying to exaggerate. The reality is, I heard on one of the documentaries, Plato, long time ago, made that prediction that democracies will ultimately become autocracies. And when you look around the globe, the number of countries that are democratic are decreasing. And for those foreign countries that are our opponents and have a different way of life that they want to be upheld, they want to destroy democracy. And they definitely have had a hand in getting us here through this disinformation, through our social media and so forth. So, I want to be hopeful. I definitely am eager to see when that fever breaks. I think, again, once it does, then I think we can find I do think that we can find our way back to a stronger democracy, a stronger country, back to the days where, even though there was people on different sides of the aisle, there were still collaborations happening. We certainly didn't come from a perfect place. Okay. We were nowhere near perfect before now. I mean, I would think our democracy was really more of it in teenage years, if anything, or maybe young adult. And it's, I think something, when you think about how the last 50 years have been pretty non-conflictual for the American people, for the most part. We had 9/11 and so forth. We've had a couple things here and there, but in terms of like a world war, we haven't had that. And I think some of our newer generations, understandably so, may have been taking for granted the democracy, and that it's not a given, it's earned, it's worked towards.
Thank you, Cris.
Yeah,
I'm sitting here.
I have something
Go
to
ahead.
add. The only time this country can come back is when its democracy dies. Because you can never learn until, it's like somebody who is addicted or an alcoholic. You have to hit rock bottom. Before now, you have what we call catharsis. There is nothing I am praying more than for America to implode. Because women and Black women have held half the sky forever, working on the fragility to strengthen it. But men, white men, Black men wanted to go implode. So my prayer every single day is that America itself will implode. So it can, like a phoenix, if it chooses, rise from the ashes. Because only when it implodes, only when will all the people who, in the first instance, created this bomb can be exposed for who they are and put on the shelf of forgotten history. So I'm not praying for things to get better, because we haven't reached rock bottom. We need to reach rock bottom, and then this place will implode, including a civil war. Whatever it is, That's the only time we can now begin to rise. Without it, nobody's going to learn anything.
Rising from the ashes. Listen, what did Seeley say in The Color Purple? What did Seeley say? You don't do right by me. Everything you touch will fail. Yes. Look, who's Gotti B? He's killing me. It's a spiritual war. First and last.
There is no spirituality in America because all the people who profess it are fake.
Yeah. Yes.
If the spirituality comes in America, then maybe things will change. What we have in America is religion, not spirituality.
Agree.
Whew. Black Americans' wealth has been declining in the last 30 years. Black Americans rank last when it comes to education and wealth. Is ranking last a result of how Black Americans have voted?
No, it's because of males.
Come on.
Black American women's wealth have been increasing and their education level have been increasing. This decrease is happening to those men who believe that they can do what Donald Trump does and get away and become rich.
Oh, okay.
They want the shortcut.
Yeah. You can't do what they do.
Look at the statistics. Black women and women generally are growing. Their educational attainment is getting a huge. Okay, look, is it an accident that two people I'm speaking to here are women and they have PhDs and they're intellectuals?
Well, maybe I gotta get Boyce on here. I'm gonna text him and see if he'll come on. So maybe he'll come on here where we can balance out everything.
The black wealth that is falling down is that of men. It's not women. Women have been held back. It was only in 1920 that a woman was allowed to vote. But look at how far they've come today. They outnumber you in education. And with a better education, your chances of flipping burger is reduced. I was a cleaner when I came to the United States because I was an immigrant, to Canada, because I was an immigrant. But I had 2 degrees. So I had to clean toilet, caca. But I chose who I wanted to be. And then I walked towards it. So if you sit down there and say black wealth is going down, it's male, not women. And it doesn't matter what black men do, they can never become Donald Trump. Donald Trump, his father gave him, your father did not, the only legacy your dad left you was a mallet and an axe to cut wood and vases to draw water for the white man. You will now make a choice whether you want to keep being a hewer of wood and drawer of water, or you are going to lift yourself. If you think that there is going to be a white savior, you are wasting your time. Your daughters are coming, and they are going to be armed with this education and this intellectual property that they are accumulating that you are not a part of. And by the time you know it, you are going to be relevant.
I want to respond to the Gaudy B. He's engaged. How you doing? It says women do better in USA than other countries. What? What is this? Listen, United States is the only developed nation where women have no. Oh, here's my husband. Hey, babe, how you doing? United States is the only country where women have no maternity leave. If you care so much about women's reproductive rights, give us paid maternity leave. I've had 3 children, and I had to go to work and teach a class at a university with my boobs leaking milk because I had to work. Buster was there with me.
I babysat my grandchildren for 3 years because their mother had to go to work after 12 weeks of having two babies.
No pay. I had to take off. I had no pay. No pay.
In Canada here is a minimum of 20 months with pay. In Nigeria, which you call primitive, is 1 year with full pay. And then don't even talk about the Scandinavian countries, Norway, Sweden, Finland, and the rest of them.
Please, let me tell you, my good friend did. She taught at a university. Her name is Jill. She taught at a university in where was it? Australia. And she said that her colleague came back from maternity leave after taking 2 years off with pay.
Yeah.
Wow.
2 years. Her and her husband. She took a year off, and they lived off of her salary. And then he took a year off to be with the baby. And they lived off of his salary. 2 years. She had come back to the university and started teaching after being away for 2 years with her child, because in that country they believe in women's rights. So I don't know what Gotti B is talking about. Women do better in USA than other countries.
So maybe women are doing better in the US. Check their ethnicity. Check their ethnicity. Those are not born in the United States. They came.
So
and they came with their intellectual property. So if you think they are doing well, and they are not, because 1959 was when Israel had its female prime minister, Golda Meir. It was Geraldine Ferraro who came close to becoming the first vice president under Walter Mondale in 1982. You didn't give it to him. So how are your women doing well when Congress is saturated by white males who have been bought and sold by the corporate America?
No.
How is it that your teen pregnancy is highest among all the OECDs? So you tell me how those issues, including bigotry and misogyny, is not impacting upon you women. Canada had its prime minister here as a woman in 1993. And Canada is your cousin. And you tell me your women are doing well when you create all sorts of barriers for them. Pay equity, none. You don't give it to them. So where are they doing better? Please tell me.
All right, Dr. Boyce. Hey, hubby, come on in. Okay, so tell me. Come on in. We've been talking about women. Let me bring you up to speed. We've been talking about how women are holding up half the sky. Hello. We've been talking about how men have felt left out and may not have had a voice. And so this Latino machismo, this black maleness has emerged. And that's why there's much more of a support for Donald Trump. Okay. We have been talking about the male fragility and even white male fragility gives them a voice in Donald Trump. And that's when Dr. Cris comes on and says that Donald Trump is kind of the voice to the people who feel powerless, who feel like they've been left behind. And he's got this strong male aggression that has been lost. Okay, so we're just trying to explain the psychology, because this is Mental Health Monday. This is my show. And we're talking about the psychology. And they're using these people as a scapegoat. We're using these migrant workers. Ain't no evidence of no migrant workers really wreaking havoc on people, but they're using this potential enemy as a way of galvanizing and making this psychological commitment to lock in these people with this cult-like following of Donald Trump. Cutting social welfare programs, we talked about that. And Dr. Buster made a prediction that the chickens are going to come home to roost, that he's made a prediction that the fever's going to break. The fever's going to break and everybody's going to wise up. Of course, I made my prediction about how Donald Trump is going to be nothing but chaos in his cabinet. He is not going to be able to get along with anybody. I was listening to NPR earlier today, and yes, lo and behold, in Del Margo or wherever he is in California, it's been so much chaos. He's firing people left and right. He ain't even been president. He's a president-elect. He's not even sitting president, and he's already firing people and seeing who's on his good side and bad side. So, anyway, tell us, what's your prediction, my wonderful husband?
Well, good to talk to you, my wonderful wife. I'm going to start off by saying I disagree with you on some of those points, but I do agree with you in the sense that I don't like Donald Trump as a person. I did not vote for him. I never have. I never will. But I refuse to vote for Joe Biden because I'm a black man, and he incarcerated more black men than any president in recent American history. And so we're stuck in that situation where we're between a rock and a hard place. Now, here's what I see in terms of where the balance really comes into play. I'm a finance professor, so I understand the economic side. Most of the people I studied with and worked with at Syracuse were conservative white males, and there's a tremendous bias there, a lot of racism, a lot of entitlement. And you're right, you know, there's a scapegoating of poor people in America. I don't think that we treat our poor very well. You know, when you have somebody like Elon Musk with as much money as he's got, basically saying that the reason for our economic problems is the people who get the least amount of money. That's kind of crazy. You know, this man's sitting on $500 billion and he's looking at the welfare recipient saying, you need to give some of your money back. I think that's kind of crazy. But what I will say also from a social standpoint is that when I sat there, I used to be a Democrat, and I can tell you most of the people that I know who either became Republicans or just said, I'm not going to be a Democrat anymore, which makes them accuse you of being a Republican because they felt like they owned the black community. So when you say, I'm a black man, I don't want to vote for you anymore, they say, oh, you're a Republican, you're a Trump supporter. And then you say, well, I didn't vote for Trump. They said, no, but you might as well be a Trump supporter because your vote belonged to us. You were supposed to give us our vote because Diddy told you to vote or die and you didn't listen to Diddy. And, you know, and it's like, no, you're not, that bullshit is not going to work with me. I'm going to do what I want. I'm a free American. Now, here's the problem with that, obviously, is that you do have some men, and I speak about black men, for example, because I talked to a lot of them who used to be Democrats who felt that they were left behind by the Democratic Party. They felt that everything that was thrown at them was not in their best interest. It wasn't stuff that, you know, when I talk to people that live in Chicago, you know, you have individuals that would be, they might consider elite, the wealthy, the college professors who say, oh, this immigration thing's a myth. But they're like, no, but they just took a school in our neighborhood and they filled it up with people that didn't live here last week. So something's going on. And I talked to those people, you know, grassroots working class in Chicago who are like, no, this is real. This is really happening in our neighborhoods. You know, wealthy people, you're not seeing it, but we're seeing it. So I kind of feel like there's just a lack of balance in this country. Now, to specifically, I'm laying on a couple of specific points so we can make sure we agree because you my wife, and I ain't trying to fight with my wife today. Because y'all can see she got more energy than me. She'll kick me in my ass. But one thing I will say is that I do agree with you that America is biased heavily toward the wealthy. In fact, we have more robber barons in our society than we had even 100 years ago with the Carnegies and the Rockefellers and all that. Elon Musk is the king of the robber barons. And that's because your government started leaning too much on money and the capitalists took over the government, basically. The drug dealers are running the police station now, and it's not going to be good for the future of this country. The second thing I'm going to say for sure is that when you were talking about women's rights and what we're doing for families, when I think about mothers and women and things like that, I'm thinking about, you know, things like childcare and you know, stuff like that. And if you look at most indicators, from what I've seen, you guys are the experts on this, but from what I've seen, the United States lags behind all the other industrialized countries when it comes to having pro-family policies in the office. So it's unfortunate, right? Because a lot of women have to make a choice. Well, do I want to be a mom or do I want to be successful at my job? And I don't think women should have to make that choice. My daughter just moved to Denmark, and when she gets sick, she takes a day off. When her son, my grandson, when he got sick and had to go to the doctor for many days in a row, they said, okay, just come back when you can, and it's fine, right? In the United States, it wouldn't be a similar situation. She would not only have a massive medical bill, but she'd probably take penalties on her job. So not only would they take your money on the front end, but they reduce your ability to make money on the back end. None of those things happened to her in Denmark, but they definitely would have happened here. So that's where I definitely can say that we agree. But I can tell you the Democrats are the reason Trump is in office, and I think they need to acknowledge that. I'm done. Thank you for
I agree. I'm not a Democrat. I'm a Canadian. I'm a liberal. Died in the war. So neither the Democrats nor the Republicans, you know, are exemplary for me. But the issue is that if you look at all the social welfare programs from Social Security to the last, it was created by the Democrats. So they have, to that extent, the Democrats approximate what a country that provides for its people means. Infant mortality rates in the United States is higher than in Cuba. If that makes sense to you, and you tell me you're family oriented, there is nothing about family oriented. You're only interested in women being pregnant and having the baby. And after that, you don't care. But the essential thing is this. Yes, I agree that the Democratic Party needs to implode. It needs to implode so it can reform itself, because it has the ideals. Whenever we have Republicans in party, we lose programs. I'm a social worker. I see people who sleep on the streets. I see those who are dying from addiction and opioid addiction, including those who voted for Trump. They should be in prison. But no, they are no longer in prison because they are white people. Remember when crack cocaine invaded the Black community, they sent all of them to prison. Now we actually see them as people who have a mental health issue, and we treat them because predominantly they are white. And this is how this place works. So as far as I'm concerned, to this extent, unless America's fever breaks, like I said, we can't fix it unless it's broke. It needs to break. And the only time it breaks, and I was just sharing with the rest of my colleagues, the government in Canada here is planning to give families that earn $150,000 or less some money to help with feeding their children. And they are going to put a moratorium on taxes until February. That is what families look like. Essentially speaking, if you have identical twin kids and you have one in Chicago and the other one in Windsor or Toronto, that one in Windsor will live 4 or 5 years longer than the one in Chicago, because the system is designed to destroy you. America is the most stressful place on the planet, and I have been around. So I'm not sure how you guys survive it, because I paid $28,000 for a bachelor's, a master's, and a PhD. Only in Canada. I'm here now. If I fall sick, I call the ambulance because I'm in Canada, and they will take me to the hospital and they will treat me, and I won't get a bill. But you have $824 billion you're going to give to contractors to go kill people in other lands, and your children are not surviving. So those are the things I have against the system. And certainly speaking, somebody like Donald Trump, who doesn't even know how government works, is not going to be able to fix it. But America needs to implode, including a civil war.
The fever's going to break, and we're going to end up seeing who's really going to profit off of this. So I think that it's going to be a mass awakening. That's my prediction. Thank you, boys, for coming on. I got to go pick my daughter up from dance. But I so appreciate you.
My brother, I haven't seen you in a while. I miss you, and I'm with you. I understand what's going on. I'm with you.
Good to see you, boys.
Oh,
Dr. Boyce.
Wait, you're muted.
I'm muted?
Yeah, I hadn't seen Buster and Chris for a long time. So it was really great to see both of you. And I'll tell you what, I kind of feel like, and by the way, Alicia, if you want to go ahead and check out get Taylor, you can, and we can just keep partying. Okay. But yeah, I kind of feel like, conversations about politics and religion are so hard, and when I came in and I saw Alicia just kind of going at it, and I said, oh gosh, I don't want to come in with anything that undermines the civility of the discussion, because I love both of y'all, And I think that it's one of the things I hate about the country right now is I hate the fact that people are losing friendships and relationships over politics. And that's what I appreciate about you two, is that, I could say what I had to say, and it was, it was like, okay, I disagree with you, and that's it. And I think that that's something that I missed from academia, because academia was, it's like that, usually when you have civil colleagues anyway.
And you didn't say anything that was offensive. You said you spoke the truth.
Yeah, there you go. See, the truth should not be offensive, right? And I'll tell you what.
But my brother, people who are dealing with are millions of miles away from the truth.
Well,
and they sell
I'll
them
tell
as
you.
the truth. And then people buy them.
I think it's terrible that I think it's the most horrible thing that I could do to another person is penalize them because they don't do what I tell them to do. Right. And I think that's what that's what bothers me about the election is that I saw people getting, really severely abused and mistreated by their family members because they said, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm not doing this anymore, And that's why I say the Democratic Party has to really answer for mistakes they've made and unethical decisions that they've made, as opposed to going to people who exercise their right as a free American to make a decision and saying, you can't do that. And that's what I feel they've done to the Black community for a long time is any of my Black friends who just, have a different opinion, there's like a type of oppression. It's like another type of voter suppression that doesn't get discussed as much, but I'm not a fan of any of that. I believe it's just like religion. I don't understand why people fight and kill each other over religion, because that's your religion. It's not mine, right? Your belief, not mine. Well, the same thing is true when it comes to politics. Look, if you're a Democrat and I'm a Republican, I can't beat you up and make you into a Democrat or beat you up and make you into what I am. Right. Instead, maybe I can try to persuade you. Maybe I can say, hey, maybe our party can be a little more inclusive so you don't feel so left behind. Because I think because what the Democrats, I think, should be concerned about is how many people left the party. I think, and I don't think it was just part of it. Some of it, I think that when they talk about the sexism and stuff against Kamala, I think that's real. That does exist. But I think a lot of it was just people that just said, no, I'm out, because I know that's how I felt. I didn't have any problem with the president being a woman. I wanted Hillary to win, but it's like, dude, like some of the stuff, it doesn't sit well with me. And if losing an election is a price you're going to have to pay to get it right, then so be it. I'll hold my nose, deal with 4 years of Trump, and hope that you show up with something better next time.
Yeah, or maybe the country implodes, as I predicted.
Well, I don't want that. I don't want a civil war now. But
no. Listen, Pete, it was Ronald Reagan. The only thing he said ever that made sense to me in his entire life was that peace is not necessarily the absence of war. Sometimes it's like the addict. You have to hit rock bottom before you actually realize where you are and plan to get up. But if you haven't hit rock bottom, you cannot conceptualize change. So that's what's happening now. And if it implodes to the extent that everything goes, because women have been holding America, and Black women have made an unbelievable amount of sacrifice towards keeping family, towards work, towards maintaining family. And I mentioned the historical antecedents of slavery, where, white emasculation made sure that men did not stay in their family systems. And then for 400 years, they internalized it. The moment you raise your voice, you are an uppity Black male. When you say something that makes sense, you are an uppity Black male. And because of that, they carry those things back home and they make it out to their families. So right now, what I'm going to ask Black women and women in general is let the whole thing cave. And then we can, if we choose to rise, because if it doesn't cave, we can begin to see those who are actually responsible for the destruction of the place. I'm coming from outside, and that allowed me to know what's going on in the United States. Most people who live there will never know how things are anywhere else. But I know, because my lived experiences have been outside of the place. And I come in and I just say to myself, what is going on here? And it's not getting better. In Canada, nobody would have voted Donald Trump. He would never have won nomination in his toilet. When Bush Jr. was elected the second time, in Canada here, we're like, what is wrong with our cousins? The only way we were able to see that is because we are outside and we've seen other places where things work. And I was sharing with them, that I had 3 degrees here from McGill University, an Ivy League university, and 28,000 was my tuition. So if I had come to the United States first, I probably wouldn't have been able to even have another degree because I couldn't have afforded it. And because there is no generational wealth, guess what is happening? Black boys and girls don't have the opportunity to pay 30,000 that is paid every year in my university.
And I think and I think, Buster, that generational wealth issue, and I put that some of that in the hands of the Democrats. You know, there have been times where the Democrats controlled all 3 branches of Congress and they did nothing for Black wealth. Black generational wealth remained flat or went down. And I think that's what people are upset about. They're just like, well, you're not giving us more of an opportunity.
Look at Roe versus Wade. If Biden had codified it, we wouldn't have had this issue. Now we're asking him to codify voting rights before he dies. Because what happens in the United States is that the Democrats play footsie. They want to be seen as gentle. And then they tread softly. And then the Republicans come with a bulldozer. And what they do is they alienate. If Trump were not in the equation this last election, I would not have voted Democrats. And I wouldn't have voted Republican because I am not a Democrat, but I will never ever be a Republican.
Yeah. I can
look
see
at
that.
what is happening. Look at what is happening in Gaza. 46,000 people have been massacred, and we're still giving weapons to a criminal.
I think that there's an overcommitment to capitalism, which is really at the root of all the problems, a lot of the problems in Democrat and Republican parties. Right.
They've been sold.
In exchange for money, the Food and Drug Administration is basically allowing the food industry to kill us. You know, there's a lot of cancer and everything from food that's we're eating here that should be banned, that's banned in other countries. We don't educate our kids properly because I guess kids don't pay taxes or there's no money in it. We don't.
Insulin is $25, $30 over the counter here in the pharmacy.
Yeah. When you look at the thing that happened with the United Healthcare CEO and the fact that millions of people were cheering when he took that guy out, and like Chris Rock said, he said sometimes drug dealers get shot. You know, he said I feel bad the man's family. He said, but sometimes drug dealers get shot. And it's and so you can just keep going down the list, and even the thing with the weapons is atrocious. The idea that we will make a deal to fund another country's war just so they can take that money and spend it with our arms dealers. That's about as sinister and horrible as you can get, and real people are being killed for this. So I do agree with you. I think that the reckoning is coming. I don't know what it's going to look like, but I can tell you as a person who's, I guess I would be considered an expert on capitalism or whatever, is I would say that this is the wrong way to apply any of this. You know, it makes you very anti-capitalist. I'm not pro-capitalism. I believe in owning businesses. I believe in financial security. I believe in all those things, but capitalism, the way it's applied to America,
but nobody says you can't run capitalism.
Basically, raw greed. You know, and it's inhumane in the 80s, and it hasn't gotten any better. So it looks like my signal was going out. Chris, did you have something to say before we finish up? Because I actually got to get back to it too. Chris is quietly.
I think both of you have made some great points. I'm coming in less looking at, the Democrats versus the Republicans, because I think I've thought for a long time we need to move away from just these two parties. I think where we're at now probably gives rise to the fact that just having those two parties doesn't give voice or representation to everybody in this country. That being said, I think that so where I'm really focused on or have a lot of concern about is breaking through that wall that is preventing us from moving forward or progressing with healthy discussions, healthy brainstorming, being focused on the same goal. And the misinformation that occurs because of social media these days and because of foreign countries impacting or working with those analogs that are set up, it has created a division, even I think beyond Republican and Democrats. And we are literally having a situation where we are no longer working off of the same facts and the same truth. And what this candidate or what this incoming president has done, for sure, whether you like him or not, he has destructed what truth and facts are. And he's done it since he started in 2016, if not earlier. And if we can't, even if we implode, if we can't get past that, I have concerns, because where do you go if you can't have communication? If you cannot put certain stuff aside in the interest of moving forward together as a people and as a country. And I know that is not going to be an easy thing because of like what both of you pointed out, the history of this country, the inequality that continues and persists. And all I'm seeing is that by disinformation, we are creating more division, us versus them. It's been brought up several times, and Boyce, you gave a great example of like someone at their local level seeing the impact of immigrants. But if you look up the data, in the last 50 years, immigration into the American country has gone down.
Yeah.
And it reminds me, that's one of the tactics. Look over here. This is the problem, because they're going to do something over here. And I don't care if they're Republican, Democrat, or otherwise. They are this leadership coming in is showing that they have a different agenda than to serve the people of this country.
And most of the people who are shouting immigrants, they came here without documents. The white man came to North America with no document.
No, this country does not belong to them.
They were undocumented. And somebody was telling me, he said, "Oh, you came here, you learned English, and now you're doing well because of American dream." And I said, you took our job. And I said, "What do you think? A brain surgeon needs the job of a high school dropout for?"
Right. So you're going to do my job with your high school dropout?
Yeah. And I said,
level?
A brain surgeon doing the job of a high school dropout, where does that happen? And the person left. Because a lot of the people who are coming are educated. And instead of building the infrastructure here, look at this way. If you're traveling by train from New York to Chicago, it will take you 21 hours. Right. And if you're lucky, you won't have pulmonary embolism. The same distance from Beijing to Shanghai is 4 hours by high-speed train.
Wow.
So we're busy here bickering for nothing, and our infrastructure is decaying, and we're becoming primitive.
Yeah.
Okay, now we are putting tariff on cheap EVs from China.
Uh-huh.
Where are ours?
Where are EVs?
Pardon me?
You said, where are our EVs?
Yeah, it's a monopoly. Yeah. We are putting tariff on EVs because if we let it go, we will have EVs and it will be cheap. Do you remember that just a few years ago, cars assembled in North America, when you go to buy, you will pay extra for air conditioning. You will pay extra for power window. And I'm telling you, this was about maybe 2002, 2003. What happened when Hyundai shipped its vehicles with all of this as standard? If you went to a car dealer in 2001, 2002, they will ask you whether you need air conditioning in your car. And if you needed, you paid extra. They ask you whether you want to wind your glasses or use power window. Power window will cost you more. All these places are capitalist. Canada is a capitalist society, but its capitalism has a human face. The pharmaceutical companies, all of them are in Sweden. That's where they came from. Novartis, you name them, and Germany. But they have free healthcare.
Right.
Insulin.
Yep.
If you go to a pharmacy here, behind me here, it's $25, $30 over the counter.
Right.
And if you're living in Canada here, you will live longer than your twin in the United States. Because today, 2 people were just shot in schools. Canadian kids don't go to school thinking somebody's going to kill them. They don't do drills here.
Yeah. I mean, I think that there's a myth of American exceptionalism, right? There's a myth that we have the best country in the world. You know, I can tell you my daughter moved out of the country because she was traumatized by all the school shootings. She lived in Denver, and just, you know, every year there was always incidents and stuff like that. And you are right. I think that what happened in America is that because we vilified words like socialism, we don't want to hear anything about what they're doing in Europe. You know, any politician,
because they don't even know what socialism or communism. They don't know what it means.
Right. And the thing is that I don't even think you have to be a socialist or a communist to just simply say maybe you should make laws that support the people, that actually improve their quality of life. I saw in Singapore, they were wondering why people in Singapore have a life expectancy that's so much longer than the United States. And they said it's easy. We incentivize people to exercise. We incentivize them to eat healthy food. And then they also said that we give a tax credit for people that live within a certain range of their parents. So you have aging parents. Those aging parents are going to have, you know, better care. Someone's going to care about them, right? As opposed to like leaving town so they can all go to work. And these are simple measures that could easily be implemented. But whenever it happens, there's a capitalist energy that blocks it, almost like the financial devil, where like Michelle Obama, when she came in and she tried to encourage healthy eating, and the food industry is like, oh, we want to help the first lady in her campaign. And what they did was basically, next thing you know, she wasn't allowed to tell them not to eat certain food. She couldn't say make little jokes like, well, you know, I like McDonald's French fries too, but I can't eat them all the time. She was not allowed to say that. She was only allowed to say, well, everybody exercise, do jumping jacks and all that. And everyone knows in America, we're the only country I know of where you can work out like crazy, but if you eat like a regular American, you will still get sick and fat. Yeah, because the food, I mean, the food dealers are drug dealers. The insurance companies and big pharma, those are drug dealers. In fact, I saw another thing that said a crazy stat where they said that 25% of the medications that get prescribed by doctors are not necessary. So 25%. Yeah, so they fill you up with all this dope and all these chemicals in your body, and then we wonder, well, why is everybody getting cancer? And
they pay the doctors to give them to you. So the moment you come, they said, you know, oh yeah, I have a sample here for you. And you're saying this doctor is really kind, but they have been paid. Yeah. You know, my first shock when I moved to the US in 2008 was I had a hacking cough that wasn't going away, and it wasn't really bad, but I just wanted to figure out how the system works. So I went to a Walgreens to see an on-call doctor or practitioner, and the first thing she told me is, "I'm going to put you on antibiotics." So, and I said, how many have you drunk yourself? Because I came to Canada here in 1993. I have done 1 or 2 procedures. Nobody gave me antibiotics. I didn't drink a single antibiotics. And I lived here for 20-something years before I came to the US. No doctor prescribes antibiotics to you here. So
wait, you said no one prescribes antibiotics here?
No, here I'm in Canada now.
Oh, you're in Canada now. Okay.
Yeah, it's the last thing they'll give to you, but that's the first thing they give to you because it's also patient driven.
Yeah.
You know, my daughter is a physician. The moment she sees a patient, the first thing they say, put me on antibiotics. And she's like, this is not for antibiotics. And she said they are going away dissatisfied.
Wow.
And he said, Dad, I'm not going to give them antibiotics if they don't need it.
Right.
Yeah, and that's not, you know, I'm really utterly shocked by how quick we are to take a drug or, you know, or prescribe a pill for something that could have easily been prevented or something that could be
look at
fixed
what is happening with Ozempic.
Yeah.
Now it's becoming a drug dealing thing.
Yep. That's
Chris, what you up to? Wait, y'all letting Chris talk?
Yes,
Chris,
they let me talk.
Yeah, I asked Chris to talk.
The man who got their voices silenced, so they feel like they got to vote for Trump. Now they got to like.
They let me talk.
Now they got to shut down what we saying. I'm just kidding. What y'all up to? What y'all doing?
Oh, nothing. I'm gonna let y'all have. I'm gonna let y'all finish your professor.
You know, my brother and I, we are kind of agent provocateur. You know,
they got the same birthday. Y'all got the same birthday.
Yeah, we push the envelopes. Yeah, we are agent provocateurs. You know, when Trump was elected.
Well, I got to get out of here, guys. So I just want to say goodbye to everybody.
Well, let's say goodbye. Goodbye, everybody.
I love you, my brother.
Bye.
Love you too.
Merry Christmas. Happy holidays.
Same to you. Same to you.
Okay,
I'm saying
bye,
y'all want to make it stop on my behalf.
How do I end the stream? I don't know. I'm just saying goodbye. Goodbye.
All right. And by the way, you should tell everybody what your website is and where they can follow you.
Can y'all follow me on Instagram? I'm trying to get 10,000 followers. Plus, you'll learn great things on Instagram.
There we go. And Chris and Buster, do they have any social media or ways for people to get in touch with them?
I think follow Dr. Buster on you got to follow Dr. Buster on Facebook because he is killing it on Facebook. There's my Instagram right there. But you got to follow Dr. Buster Ogbuagu. Hold on. Y'all see his name. Follow him on Facebook because he is constantly posting about politics. And so if you want to know what's happening with politics and the right way to think, as far as I'm concerned, go to his page on Facebook. And then Dr. Cris, where can people find you?
Through you, Dr. Alicia, for right now.
Yes. Y'all want to work with Dr. Cris. She's got 2 PhDs. Go to Coaching with Dr. Alicia and put her name in there, and I'll hook y'all up with Dr. Cris. Same thing with Dr. Buster, too.
I can't hear anything you're saying.
Oh, no. You can't hear me? Can y'all hear me?
I can.
I can hear you.
You can hear me? Okay. All right. I'll see y'all next Monday, though. Peace out.
All right. Have a good night, everybody.
Bye.
See you later. Bye-bye.